Here we are now with the student women's eights. This is the Island Challenge Cup between the University of Rhode Island on the Berkshire station, on the Buckinghamshire station, Newcastle University. You can see the flags there in the background. They are rattling away off this start line.
And actually, we go beyond the island, you can just see the wind's going to really hit them as they come through that island. So this is becoming more of a factor, and already you can see on the left-hand side of your picture, University of Rhode Island, they're on that side, they're on the boys. I think that there's a little bit of issues there on stroke side. Can they course correct? Whereas Newcastle off like a die, and that's reflected in the race.
What a great spot there, Cam, with those wind shadows where the island ends. It must mean we've got that bit of a crosswind, right, that would have been blowing into the island. So that shelter now gone as they pop out the end of the island. Newcastle University, closest to us, have the lead by almost a length, and they'll want to break that clear.
And credit to Sashank Viswanathan, he has steered an absolute blinder off the start, straight as a die, and that is reflected by about half a length of boat speed in the first 20 strokes. So credit where credit's due.
Newcastle University have been building so well through the season. They perhaps had a disappointing finish at the British University Championships back in May. They were down in 5th position. They've been medalist in this event in the past in the women's eights. But through the season, slowly, Alex Lee has managed to get a really great performance out of this crew. Most recently at Henley Women's Regatta, where they made it to the semi-finals. Then also we saw them have the fastest time out of university crews at the Metropolitan Regatta that takes place at Dorney Lake, the Olympic rowing venue here, which was in June.
And you've raced for the university in Durham. We've seen how highly competitive that British university setup scene is. What are your thoughts from when you rode at Durham and you've got such high competition between UL, Durham, Newcastle, Brookes, all these big universities? Do you think that will have fueled this Newcastle crew on?
Oh, 100%. And they're on the same side of the draw. You know, if you think about the draw trees to both UL and Durham, they have them both to come if all of those crews progress as planned. So they will know that that is on the sheet, on the race sheet for later on this week, so they'll want to conserve that energy. But look at that gap here. Rhode Island just coming into shot. They've travelled all the way from the east coast of the States. They raced, they came here a few weeks ago actually, because they raced at the Henley Women's Regatta, which is 1,500 metres off this stretch, and will be coming past the Henley Women's Regatta finish line just on the left in a moment, just after Remenham. But they were beaten by Oxford Brookes A in the first round of competition at Henley Women's Regatta. I'm sure they'd have been hoping, Cam, to have progressed a little bit further here, but Newcastle just too hot to handle.
Yeah, lovely shot of both boats with that drone overhead. Just casting your eye to the boat on the left-hand side, the University of Rhode Island. Interesting rig. They've got the bow stroked with 6 and 7, so those are the people towards the back of the boat if you're new to rowing, just on the same side in a bucket. So that's quite an unusual rig. We're seeing more and more eights having non-traditional rigs, should we put it, with buckets and people bow stroked and things. So it's nice to see that they're obviously tinkering and optimizing their crew for best speed. And this is a great shot. I can see Gwyn Batten as the umpire there, making sure that everyone is nice and level on their station. But once again, we're seeing Newcastle managing this race really effectively. If you're watching at home and you want to think about race management, off that start, nice and hard, nice and fast, straight as a die, get up, get the race done, and then we can think about race management. Lovely shot of that Hudson 8 there with all 8 oars perfectly in sync. You can also just notice the wires. For those of us with BDIs, there's little wires going into each of their gates, which is the telemetry system that many universities and schools are using these days to monitor that force production. So the athletes in the boat, the coxswain, and maybe even the coach and the coach's launch are seeing those printouts of what they're doing every single stroke.
BDIs you've got there, Cam. That was very well spotted on the telemetry, that data that will be like gold dust for this Newcastle crew, especially in the first half of this race, where they'll have raced to the opening markers, to the barrier, to Fawley, but just settling now in front of the enclosures. And this is one of 2 crews that Newcastle have qualified. They've also got, they had a 8 in the Temple Challenge Cup as well, but here in the island, this Women's University 8 will sail through ahead of their international competitors from Rhode Island, who will be able to enjoy the remainder of the regatta from the bank, unfortunately. Great to have them here though, and I hope we do see Rhode Island again in the future, but Newcastle University winning that heat of the island.